Hey, and welcome to Girl Be Free, a podcast designed to help women get unstuck and cultivate the life you want on your terms. I'm Siobhan, your host, and I'm passionate about empowering women to live their best life. Each week, you'll hear pep talks that will inspire and push you to take action so you too can start to be free and live the life you want. You can learn more about me at BeFreeProject.com. Now let's jump into the show. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Girl Be Free podcast. I'm your host, Siobhan, and thank you for tuning in for another week of pep talks that are going to inspire and motivate you to take action in your life. What I am loving this week. This past Friday, I went to Columbus, Ohio to check out Zora's house, and it is a co-working space for women of color. And y'all, I was blown away because the space is just absolutely beautiful. The owner is Elsie Johnson, and I remember years ago she had a blog called Color Girl Collective that I used to read, and she had like these wine chat Wednesdays. And then I noticed she was gone off the internet for a while, and it makes sense now because she literally built a space for women to come together, to work, to engage, to gather. And I was so excited. I went down there with my best friend last Friday, and we stayed there all day, and it was so welcoming. Elsie shared her story of how she got started, and it was just nice to be around a collective of women of color working on whether it was schoolwork or their business, and just positive energy in the room. And I love it. I wanted to shout her out this week. So if you are in the Columbus area or close to it, I'm in Cleveland and I drove about 2 hours to get there. Definitely make it out there to support her, to become a member if you're in the area. She has lots of different resources and events for women, and it's just a great space. And I don't know too many places, actually, I don't know any place that's a co-working space specifically for women of color. So totally check that out. I love it. I want to shout her out. Her website is zorashouse.com. And then, that's where you can learn more information about what she has going on. All right, so this week I am talking about 3 ways to put you first without feeling guilty. So I wanted to talk about this because I know we as women are guilty of putting everyone's needs before our own. And when we do that, we end up feeling unhappy. We don't get enough done. We feel frustrated because we feel like we're a people pleaser, right? We put everyone else before ourselves. And so we're wearing so many hats, whether we are wives, we're mothers, we're daughters, etc. And I feel like I want you to give yourself permission to put you first without feeling guilty, right? And no longer making everyone else's needs come before your own. That is not fair to you. That is not fair to the things that you want to accomplish in your life. And if you have people that are watching, whether you have children or friends, coworkers that are inspired by something that you're doing, you want to set a good example by putting you first and saying yes to yourself before everyone else, and just be that role model in that way. Right? And so I don't want to hear you complain about, oh, I never have time for myself, or this person always needs me for X, Y, and Z. You're going to have to put some things in place so that you are putting you first. I shared last week how I now am doing a morning ritual every morning. And so I'm getting up at 5 a.m. and I'm on week 2 and it feels really good. Some days I am tired, but the goal is that I'm making my needs a priority. That way I am performing better throughout the day. I do need a nap by 1 o'clock or so, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm putting me first, and I'm not feeling frustrated when people are asking me to do certain things because I've already started the day with putting me first. So if you haven't listened to last week's episode about creating a morning ritual, I highly recommend it. And so today I'm going to share a few things on how or in what way you need to put yourself first. And so let me just be transparent because I always have to tell you my stuff, right? That way we're able to connect and you know that you are not alone. Because I struggled for years with being a people pleaser because I wanted to be liked by everybody. So I would give and give and give and then end up feeling like I wasn't getting the same in return. And so I got to a point where I felt like I was just being pulled in so many different directions and that I was stuck in my own life while everybody else was moving forward. And I didn't like how that felt. And so I knew that I had to make a change or I would never be free to live the life that I wanted to live because I was too busy pleasing everyone else. So I'm going to share 3 ways on how you can start to put you first. And then I wrote a whole blog post on this, which is a total of 5 ways. So you can check that out and you'll find a link to that in the show notes. And then if my voice sounds a little raspy, I told y'all I'm getting up earlier in the morning. So I'm recording this podcast really early so that it can be ready to go out. I'm trying to take the most, you make the most of my time. All right. So number 1, I want you to start saying no. All right. So every time someone asks you to do something, you are not obligated to say yes. You have a right to say no if it's not something that you really want to do. And you don't owe anyone an explanation. So no can be a complete sentence. So I know that is challenging, because if you're so used to saying yes to everyone and now saying no to things you don't want to do, that can be a little difficult. So something you can say is that when someone asks you to do something, you can say, let me think about it, or let me check my calendar, or let me get back with you, right? And so that gives you time to think about it, to see, can you really do that thing that they're asking you to do? Do you really want to do it? Or, you know what? Just say, no, I can't do it at this time. And so at least they know that you tried and you didn't just say no because you were being mean, even though you have a right to say no. But if you're someone like me and you're like, that's going to make me feel uncomfortable and I don't want to hurt anyone and I don't want to cause any conflict, then say, let me think about it. And if that person loves you enough, they will respect that and give you time to see if it's something that you really want to do. All right. I think one reason that we struggle with telling others no is because we don't want to disappoint anyone and we want to keep the peace. But just know every time you are saying yes to someone else, when they ask you to do something, that means you're saying no to the goals that you want to accomplish and you're putting yourself on the back burner. And so when people say, oh, I'm so busy, I can't do X, Y, and Z, are you really busy? Or are you just giving so much of your time to others that you haven't made your needs a priority? We all have the same 24 hours in a day, right? And so to avoid feeling stressed out and overwhelmed, you have to be okay with making your needs first. And it's okay. You don't have to feel guilty about that. I want you to be okay with starting to tell yourself yes. And know that in the beginning, it's going to be a challenge for you and for the people that you are communicating with because it's new. But over time, it will get a little bit easier. To begin to say no. And everything, you don't have to say no to everything, but if it's something that you're like, man, this person is always asking me to do this, and I'm tired and I'm fed up, you have a right to say no. Okay? And you don't have to feel bad about it. And if people, like I said, if they genuinely care about you and they will respect your response, and that way in the future, they know, okay, this person is putting themselves first. They may not be thinking about it like that, but they're putting their needs first. And if they really want to help me, they will. And you don't have to feel bad one way or another because, again, you have a right to put you first. So that's number 1 is to start saying no, especially to things that you do not want to do. Because what happens also, let me just add, is that you know how you say yes to someone like, yeah, I'll do this. And then you end up being mad and upset. You're gossiping about it to your friends. And you would have never had to do that if you didn't say yes in the first place. All right. Number 2 is to set boundaries. Set boundaries. People will only do to you what you allow. Let that sit with you for a moment. People will only do to you what you allow. So there was a time when I did not speak up for myself. All right. And I was always being controlled by others. And it wasn't until I discovered my voice that I had to put some boundaries in place of how I would allow people to treat me and not walk all over me. And I discovered my voice through therapy. And what I learned is that I have a right, to use my voice. And as long as I'm not trying to hurt anyone or be disrespectful or mean, I have a right to speak up for myself. And it wasn't easy, but again, just like with saying no, over time it became easier and easier. But in the beginning, it was really hard. And a lot of people that I was, connected to in a close way, like they didn't understand, like, what are you doing? Or what are you saying? Like, you always say yes. Or like, where is this new you coming from? So I had to learn myself. And then I had to teach other people how to treat me. And we as women have a tendency of just spreading ourselves way too thin. And then end up blaming other people versus taking responsibility for our own actions. So I read this quote. It says, "A lack of boundaries invites a lack of respect." I can't remember who it was by, but I'm going to read it again. "A lack of boundaries invites a lack of respect." So if you don't set proper boundaries in place, then you cannot be mad when people cross the line because the big boundaries were never put in place in the first place, right? So again, you have to teach people how to treat you so that way they don't walk all over you and take advantage of your niceness. And that was how I felt. I felt like, and I'm a really nice person and I'm a very giving person. People know that they can count on me. And I felt like because I was on this self-discovery journey and I was changing, I had to, again, treat people how to treat the new me. And it's something that Lauryn Hill talked about in her album Unplugged, where she said as she was changing and as she was growing, she was becoming a new person. And so people that thought they knew her, they really didn't. And she had to teach them how to treat the new her. So if you haven't listened to that album, I feel like I mentioned it on here before, but Lauryn Hill Unplugged is an amazing album. So how to set boundaries. Number one, be honest with yourself and acknowledge how you feel, right? So when you feel like someone has crossed the line, acknowledge, how do you feel? Why is it making you feel that way? And a good thing to do is to journal and to write out what you're feeling to make sure that it's valid. And then pay attention to what's causing you to feel like the boundaries have been crossed. So what emotions are you experiencing? Again, are they valid? Are they real? Journaling will help you process this. All right. And that was all number one, I guess. Number two is to think about what you need to put in place so that you don't feel like this in the future. So when someone is crossing the line, what are some things that you need to do to protect yourself so you're not repeating these same behaviors over and over again? Number three, in a respectful manner, express how you feel with the person who you feel that has crossed the line. Don't assume that they know that you are hurting. Be a grown woman and have an open and honest conversation. So, if you haven't read the book The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, you totally should, because one of the agreements is don't make assumptions. And we have a habit of that. All right, I'll just say I have a habit of that, like making an assumption when I don't know if it's really factual or not. So don't feel like people know that they crossed a boundary, because they don't. You have to open up your mouth, use your voice, and let them know in a respectful way, right? And just be honest and let that person know how they made you feel. And so you can get to a healthy space afterwards. And then lastly, don't have any expectations or demand an apology for someone. You don't have to expect that, because in some cases you may never get the apology that you feel like you deserve, and if you stay in that place you'll be stuck, right? So simply just let the person know how they made you feel so that you can move on. And then lastly, practice self-care and spend some time doing things that make you feel complete and whole. A great book to read that I haven't read yet, but I hear it recommended all the time is a book called Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud. And I'll list the book in the show notes so you can take a look at that. All right, and then the last step that I want to share with you as it relates to a way to put yourself first without feeling guilty is to make a happy list. So you'll be surprised at how many people don't know what makes them happy or what brings them joy. When I ask my clients or my students that question, like, what makes you happy? They struggle to come up with a response because they're so busy being busy. They're saying yes to everyone but themselves. There's no boundaries in place. And so to take time to really think about what fulfills them and what brings them joy is something that they haven't even thought about in the very long time. So my challenge to you listening is to make a list of all the things that make you happy and be intentional about doing something off your list every day, right? And it can be simple things, it doesn't have to be that big. So, some of the things that make me happy is laughter, coffee, a French roast to be specific. Traveling makes me really happy. Sunshine, like the sun makes me really happy, and just feeling the sun and the light, like it just brightens my mood all the time whenever I can experience it. Nature makes me happy, being around my family and my friends, reading, watching funny videos on Instagram or YouTube makes me happy. So it, as you see, it can be the simplest of things. What makes you happy? So make a list and then you can write it down in your journal or you can make a note on your phone. There's an app called Wonderlist that you can check out where you can literally keep a list of things. But keep a list of things that make you happy and do something off that list every single day. And even if you have to set a reminder in your phone or make a calendar event to say, today I want to enjoy a delicious cup of coffee or tea, right? And when you're enjoying that, be present in the moment, right? So really enjoying the sip, enjoying the flavor, the taste. Y'all see, I think I need another cup of coffee this morning. Oh man. But yeah, so that's something that I want you to do. And so in order to say yes to yourself, right? You first need to know what you're saying yes to. So this is something that I want to share with you that I am saying yes to. And hopefully it'll be inspiring to you. Say yes to your dreams. Say yes to your goals. Say yes to putting you first. Say yes to doing things that make you happy. Say yes to change. Say yes to loving yourself. Say yes to living the life that you were created to live. And of course, say yes to being free. Being free to be you, to live on your own terms, to cultivate a life that feels good to you inside and out. And you know why you need to say yes to these things? Because you deserve it. As simple as that. And so this week, I'm going to share, instead of an actual action step, which I feel like I shared one with you because I want you to create a happy list. And I don't know if I asked you to do that before. But I want to share one of my favorite quotes with you. And it's by Marianne Williamson, and it's called Our Deepest Fear. And I'm going to share a link to this quote in the show notes along with everything else that I shared today. But this is a quote that I have written down and I read it often, and it really speaks to my soul. And I think it's going to resonate with you as well. So here we go. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. I love that quote, y'all. And it just speaks volumes as it relates to putting you first without feeling guilty. We are all here to do something amazing in the world, and it's up to you to figure it out. And you are brilliant, you are gorgeous, you are talented, you are fabulous, you are smart, you are amazing. Own it, walk in it, live it, be it. All right. So that's what I wanted to share with you this week. If you have been inspired by this podcast episode, share it with your friends, right? So text it, share it on your Instagram stories, on Instagram, on Facebook. Share this episode with someone else that you know will be inspired by it. And just tell a friend about the Girl Be Free podcast. I totally appreciate that. And then a few announcements. The Be Free Life class, Free Your Mind in Yoga, is happening this Saturday, April 28th from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. It is all about decluttering your mind, getting rid of the stinking thinking, being mindful, practicing positive thoughts. Dawn from Daybreak Yoga will be my feature this session, and she's going to help us practice yoga for beginners and beyond. And also this event will be catered by Pure Pantry Clee, so you can check that out. There will be a link to the event in the show notes. So whether you're in Cleveland or surrounding cities, totally come out and hang out with me. People travel all the time, so that will be cool. The next Be Free meetup is going to be on Friday, May 11th. And that is where we network and just have inspiring conversations with positive, like-minded women to help you grow and become the best you. Again, a link to that will be in the show notes as well. And then again, I shared 3 steps today, but there's a total of 5 that I wrote a full blog post about that you can check out. So I'll link to that blog post in the show notes. As always, I appreciate you for listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And until next time, girl, be free. Thank you so much for listening. Your support means the world to me. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling really fancy, go ahead and leave a review. Until next time, be free and live.